Hello everyone and welcome to the FedEx Preview Show. I'm Jonathan Merriman, joined by Marty Snyder from NBC Sports. Marty, Denny Hamlin gets a win in the FedEx car, so let's go to him and hear what he had to say after his second trip to victory lane.
Just a fast car. You get me a fast car, a car enough that could really pass anyone in the field, so that means a lot. So it definitely was a different type of race, trying to draft and everything and try to get out of everyone's wake, but proud of this whole FedEx office team here, Toyota, Coca-Cola, the Jordan brand, Little Big Burger, everyone who helps put this race car on the racetrack. Joe Gibbs, JD Gibbs, still thinking about him and his legacy, so got to say hi to Jordan and the kids at home, and hopefully we have some fun tonight.
Now, definitely a very different Denny Hamlin than we saw last year.
Oh, yeah.
The weight came off of his shoulders in Daytona. He's got to be feeling extra good after that performance in Texas.
Yeah, I think certainly with the way they were able to overcome all the things that they had go wrong at the Texas race with the 2 penalties, and then they ran out of fuel. He missed pit road one time. Just shows the tenacity of that team. And you got to give it to Chris Gabehart. These races have really come down to, yes, you've got to have a fast race car, but it is all strategy. And him making those 2 calls to go with fuel only at separate times in the race, but certainly the last stop of the race, that's really what won them the race. These races, as we mentioned, coming down to strategy, less time on pit road. Talked to Chris Gabehart after the win, and he said, listen, that was the whole key to the entire win, was spending less time on pit road. I think that's going to be a theme because, Jonathan, these tires are so hard. These teams are learning that, hey, they're not going to be quite as important as maybe they've been in the past. So your strategy and how you manage pit road during the day is becoming everything with how you win these races.
Now, before we move to Bristol, let's talk about Hendrick Motorsports. Finally, some speed at a 1.5 mile track out of that camp. Now, it's a while before we go to Kansas, but is this a sign of things to come for HMS?
I think it could be a sign for Hendrick Motorsports. Clearly, they put the changes they wanted to make into their cars. We talked about on the show last week how the West Coast swing you can kind of throw away because you can't make changes to your race car during the West Coast swing. Texas was going to be a good barometer, but yes, for Hendrick Motorsports, they're finally going in the right direction. You see a smile on Jimmy Johnson's face, leading all those laps, running up front. William Byron runs well. Chase Elliott runs well. 88 needs a little bit of improvement there, but I think certainly Hendrick Motorsports going in the right direction. And we mentioned this a few weeks ago. You're really not going to know who's good with this package until much later in the year than you normally would. I think May, maybe even early June is when we're going to really see who the contenders are.
All right, let's zero in on Bristol. I think if you're going to win this race, you're going to have to go through Kyle Busch. 7 wins there. Why is he so good there? Why does that kind of suit his style of racing?
I think it's an aggressive racetrack, and I think the way you have to attack Bristol is very aggressive, and this race with this package is even going to be more aggressive. I think the speeds are going to be through the roof. You're going to see cars in qualifying 3 to 4 tenths quicker than they were even last fall. And it's funny, you talk to Paul Wolf and Brad Keselowski, they talked about building a special car for Bristol. They didn't go quite to that extent, but I think the speeds are going to be crazy fast. It's going to happen quicker than ever at Bristol. The action is going to be insane. And to me, how Bristol decides to apply the PJ1 throughout the weekend. I thought Texas Motor Speedway did a fantastic job of it this past weekend, but how they apply that at Bristol is really going to affect the racing. Is it going to be a 1-groove racetrack? Are we going to have 2 grooves? Can you run too wide at these kind of speeds at Bristol? All of that. We're honestly not going to know that until Sunday during the race. I think it's going to be a crazy, wild race. A lot of wrecks. I think it's going to be a survival race, too.
So with the aspects of this race changing with this new package, so we suspect, do you think this is a time for guys who haven't been that great at Bristol in the past to figure it out? Or do you think if you've been good at Bristol, like a Kyle Busch, like a Eric Jones, like a Joey Logano, that those guys will still be the ones to beat?
So what are the 2 teams you mentioned there? Joe Gibbs Racing and
Penske.
Team Penske. And they've won every race this year. I think that continues this weekend because you've got to look at who's been good at Bristol in the past. Joe Gibbs Racing and Team Penske. So I think those cars, once again, are going to be very strong this weekend. I look at Denny Hamlin, I look at Kyle Busch. You mentioned Eric Jones. He's going to be very good. Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano. All of those guys are going to be very strong this weekend at Bristol. I think it's just going to feed the teams that are already good at Bristol this weekend because they clearly have this package figured out. Bristol's going to be different than it's ever been. But to me, it's going to be hard to bet against Kyle Busch for the win this weekend. But you're going to see a lot of different names in the top 5 throughout the weekend.
All right, so you're pretty high on Kyle Busch. Is he your one lock in for your Fantasy Live lineup?
How can you not take Kyle Busch this weekend at Bristol with how fast they've been all year long and how fast he's been at Bristol in the past. I think, honestly, to me, last fall, he was the best car. He wrecked early, he wrecked late, still had a shot to win the thing. So I think Kyle Busch is going to be the guy to beat this weekend. He loved this place. He loves the speed that comes with Bristol. I think they're going to be tough to beat.
I don't think you can live without Kyle in your lineup. I think
Sure,
you
yeah.
have to use him. But somebody I think that's going to be tough, and we may see some shades of the Snowball Derby. I'm going to take Eric Jones to get his second Cup win, his first one at Bristol. He's been fast there as of late, so I think the 20 car is going to be pretty quick.
Talked to Eric like a month ago, and he said, I'm looking forward to Bristol. That was a month ago, so this weekend, I know he's excited to get there, considers it his favorite racetrack, and they've always been very good there. Another good sneaky pick for this weekend, Eric Jones.
All right, it's the Food City 500 from Bristol Motor Speedway, Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Marty, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you back here next week as we prepare to go Saturday night racing in Richmond.